our awesome sponsors would not be brown bags here. So welcome, guys. I believe you're going to talk to us all about the Recovery Management Suite.
Yes, we are. So my name is Joe Noonan. I'm our Senior Product Manager here at PhD. I'm with Carlos Escap, our VP and General Manager of Products. Recovery Management Suite is one of the new launches of PhD Virtual here. We're launching our new PhD Virtual Backup in 6.5. So launching a new product, PhD portfolio called ReliableDR. These two products are what's enabling our ability to now solve the entire spectrum continuum around recovery, all the way from granular files and folders, really new application recovery for Microsoft Exchange and SharePoint, full virtual machines, and now into more complex like applications that have interdependent VMs that need to be included in certain orders, networking in certain ways, IPing of machines, and full application testing, automating this entire process. These applications, multiple applications in a business service format, sites. Our Recovery Management Suite now cover this entire continuum. I'm going to turn things over to Carlos Escapa, who's going to get into a little bit of our reference architectures with some of the functionality with ReliableDR 3.0.
Thank you very much, Joe. Our first reference architecture suite builds whose sites should be backup solutions installed and the beauty of this architecture is that it's extremely simple to deploy, extremely quick to results. And it's mostly used for mental remote connections and relatively small companies that need disaster recovery. As you can see on the left side of the screen, we have PhD backup appliance that is providing protection for the local restore of action from a machine all the way down to a exchange. That provides also the archive those packets outsourced such as Amazon. And on the right side of the screen, you see that we initiate software application directly from the hypervisor and be able to build, extract applications, will instance them secondary. What's new about the recovery management solution in this case is that we can exercise disaster recovery tests based on this architecture. So we are really instancing your applications, covering them secondary side, and be able to match SLAs of main HT. So HT virtual introduces the concept of recovery time control, measure the actual amount of time that then be able to compare that RTO, therefore meet science objectives. Very, very simple solution in that application across the sites only requires to establish credentials on the protected side, apply those credentials to PhD ReliableDR, then the replication is taking place directly off. Very simple solution. It's particularly apt for small environments with small rates of change. So those sites that have sufficient bandwidth, I move those changes across sites without the need for compression or deduplication. Very simple, very effective solution. The other side of the spectrum, perhaps, when we have an extremely critical and very high volume changes across data centers, our customers are using storage replication. So with regard to backup, as in the previous slide, we have our virtual backup appliance providing the local backup and store capability with also the optional ability to archive cloud. And we are relying on storage replication so that across sites we have SAN-to-SAN level replication. This is where ReliableDR, instead of interfacing directly with the hypervisor, we're going to be talking here directly with the storage subsystem, asking the storage array to generate snapshots. It's those snapshots then that we use in order to recreate the application in a sandbox environment. And as in the previous slide, we are able to instance the entire application, put each of the VMs, and then perform a disaster recovery exercise to arrive at our recovery time. That time objective, and we can ensure that we have. What is different and particularly high value add in ReliableDR in this case is that by interfacing directly with the storage subsystem, we do not interfere in any way production. There are no agents. There's nothing to install or prepare in the VMs that are being protected. And depending on the compliance requirements of the customer, we can then institute a recovery policy and apply it to the storage snapshot. And what this allows us to do then is to keep multiple generations of certified recovery points that customers can go back to. So in this case, we're not only protecting against a major outage in the primary data center, but also if there is to be some data corruption or a malware attack, something that would trigger a disaster and that would be replicated to the secondary site, we are actually able to go back in time to a previous certified recovery point, and we are able to execute the recovery and be able then to put the customer back in production within a predictable amount. Our next reference architecture involves the combination of ReliableDR with the virtual backup appliance, and I'm going to turn the microphone over to Joe over the details of the site.
Thanks, Carlos. This is definitely one of the new features of the ReliableDR 3.2 release is the integration PhD Virtual's VM replication capabilities. One thing you'll notice that's a little different in this reference architecture than the first one with ReliableDR's replication, that PhD Virtual combines the backup and replication processes to handle data transfer to the DR site. What we'll actually do here is we'll take a snapshot of your production environment and we'll use that for backups. Because we're storing the data locally in deduped and compressed format, the process is very, very quick. Now with this quick process happening at your local site, we now can actually look at the backup target from the DR site, pull just the information we need from the backup target to create replicated standby VMs at your DR site. That's what you see the VBA on the right-hand side doing. It's pulling that data from the backup target. Now, there's a couple of benefits to this. For one is if you're leveraging our product and you're using us for local and off-site data protection, always a good thing to minimize the amount of snapshots being taken of your production environment. And this does exactly that. Keeps the snapshots limited to one for both processes. And it also makes the snapshot process quicker for replication because storing the data locally first. So you don't have a snapshot sitting open at your production environment, the entire replication process over the WAN. And that's what you see in a lot of other solutions where we're pretty unique. Now, once we get the data moved to the DR site using our VBA's replication, ReliableDR kicks in. Does all the nice things that Carlos mentioned that it does. It'll basically stand up VMs in a sandbox test environment, test recovery as frequently as you'd like to, and it automates this entire process. It gets into the applications and verifies application recovery time objectives and recovery point objectives are being met. It can store multiple points in time for you to recover to your DR site. Of course, all this is basically provided with a great interface that's very business-centric and has an excellent positioning for compliance purposes. Now, this next slide has a slight difference to the first. So in PhD Virtual 6.5, we implemented a new feature called Backup Archive. This gives you another option to move data across the WAN. So the other illustration showed you could archive out to the cloud. You can archive out to your own storage at a different data center as well. The nice thing about this is now you'll have an entire set of your backups off-site. All the WAN transfer is completely deduplicated and compressed. And things like reseeds sometimes happen in the VM replication world for one reason or another. Backup process never has a reseed process requirement to it. So your WAN transfer always stays very, very efficient throughout disasters, outages, or whatever that may be. So what we have on the right-hand side of the equation here now is doing a local VM replication to keep that replicated VM set up to date at your DR site using the VBA at the DR site. And of course, now ReliableDR kicking in and doing its thing on the DR orchestration, failover, and recovery testing side of things. So it's just a different slant on how you want to move the data over the WAN. Very efficient. A brand new feature from PhD in the backup archiving process that we're excited to give to folks to basically enhance our offsite capabilities, to the cloud or to your own DR environment. Now, of course, again, with the integration with Reliable 3.2, really extend the capabilities of PhD Virtual Backup and Replication to DR orchestration. And as we mentioned before, the entire focus here is to focus on that entire recovery management suite, being able to recover granular objects, application objects, full applications and full sites, all with one single solution.
Thank you guys for coming up and having a talk about that. And I imagine that you've got plenty of demos at your stand today that people who are here at the show can see.
Absolutely. We're going to be demoing for the next couple of days. Please do come by, and we'll be happy to show you both products and how they work together.
Once again, thanks guys for supporting the Tech Talks and filling us in on the product. This has been the vBrownbag Tech Talk.